Well, it's Memorial Day, and it's an important day in our family. Mom and Dad, for years, have volunteered putting flags at all the cemeteries, commemorating, and other volunteers, it's not just them, commemorating the veterans and their sacrifice to our country and the great things that they've done. And yeah, this is our Veterans Day show, and so we want to honor all the vets and everything that you've all done for us. So thank you, and hey, Dad, take it away.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to say something about the flags. We have two cemeteries here in Mitchell, right near Mitchell, and then we have the one out at West Branch. And over the years, when a decedent is a veteran, and the flag that drapes over his coffin, we request that, and they can do this if they don't want to, they volunteer it, that the flag be flown over the cemetery where he is interred. And sometimes people, even outside the area, donate the flag to remember their loved one at the cemetery that maybe might mean something to them. And we started this back in, I don't remember, many years ago. And the Lions Club's the one that started it. And so they come around and we bring the flags out, usually the Friday before Memorial Day. And if you've never seen it, it's one of the most beautiful things you can see. And if you're coming through Mitchell and looking around you, the Mitchell Cemetery East, you can see that from the highway. And also the Mitchell Cemetery West, which is the Oddfellows old cemetery, and you'll see the flags. And there's about, I think the upper cemetery probably has 30 or 40, and maybe the lower cemetery more, and about 40 or 50 out at West Branch Cemetery. It's kind of funny because the West Branch Cemetery sits out there. It's kind of isolated on the old highway right behind the Woodward place. And as you drive up that road, you happen to be up that road and you look up there and you think, well, it don't even look like a cemetery up there until you see those flags. And boy, it is one of the most awesome patriotic feelings you'll ever feel.
It always strikes awe on me at this time of year just to see the flags around town and in the honorage.
Yeah, that's another thing. We do actually put flags up around the city of Mitchell. The city does this, I think, and yeah, we fly them from Memorial Day until Labor Day. So in the summertime, you can look around
in town.
Yeah, in town. Yeah, and you'll see them flying there. So yeah. The patriotism in this town is pretty deep, and everybody knows somebody that, either was in the service or gave their life for the service. We haven't lost a whole lot of them, but we'd like to thank the ones today that did that. And I'm going to read some of the names here. I'm probably not going to get them all, but I would like to honor their names today. There is Harold Melody, Gary Williams, Luther McFetridge, George Amer, Henry Jones, Bernard Wilson, Bert Dent, Ben Woodard, Otis Woodward, Doug Woodward, Floyd Dale, Jim Huddleston, Roscoe McCarty, Oscar Nichols, Lyle McFadden, Bob Powell, Ed Powell, Don Rislin, Hilary Weinbarger, Stub Weinbarger, Sonny Weinbarger, John Barnhouse, Clarence Hovey, Wade Tate, Slim Helms, Glenn Helms, Bryce Helms, Ray Helms, Wiley Duggar, Harvey Williams, Lloyd Meekum, Keys Butler, Virgil Shown, Isaac Shown, Oliver Trent, James C. Mabe, Les Maley, Sam Kirby, John Helms, Earl Potter, Don Culver, Bob Helms, Bob Gage, Walt Osborne, Kyle Sweet, Bud Hearn, Merle Bland, Franklin Paul, Dewey Bland, Monty Bales, Cliff Marsh, Ray Merrill, John Thacker, Bob Williams. And the list goes on. Jeff Borland, Tone Cannon, Bob Cannon, Pat Bohannon, George Grunst, Ray Gage, Willard Gage, Raymond Osborne, Robert Osborne, Bill Chandler, Lyle Cole, Jim Collins, Mary Fitzgerald, Carlisle Norton, Walter Norton, Ned Norton, Virginia Norton Keyes, Ron Quant, Roger Quant, Bill Warnell, Virgil Waite, Bob Godbolt, Jim Maxwell, Charles Maxwell, Sharon Hale Lunyew, Everett Bud Fulston, Billy Campbell, Morris Delisle, Leonard Foley, Trevor Humphreys, Bob Humphreys, Lloyd Humphreys, Tom Jones, John Cannon, Don Maxwell, Pete Williams, Shorty Cody, George Snay, Kent Powell, Bill Powell, Glenn Cook, Morgan Jordan, Tom Jordan, Walt Jordan, Frank Mansfield, James Payne, Dean Polson, David Price, Ernest Stevenson, Bill Patterson, Lawrence Junkie, and Warren Reynolds. Now, these are, I've missed a couple up. I don't know what I did with my list of the ones that are still here and living.
Well, maybe we'll just honor the ones that have passed for now and maybe do a special show for the living veterans.
yeah.
I'd hate to lump the living with the dead at this point.
Yeah, that might not be a good thing. And some people may not know right now in this time of day.
They might not know if they're dead or not.
Yeah. Now we have some at Camp Watson also, and they're veterans. Stephen Watson was buried there, but they dug him up and took him back down to Fort Vancouver. You know, that's a funny thing because he got killed over the Maury Mountains over in the Close Plina country someplace. And
they brought him back to
Camp
Watson?
They buried him there, and then they interred him and took him to Camp Watson. They dug him up again and then took him to Vancouver. So he had almost as many miles on him after he died as he did when he was living.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Huh?
But anyhow, at Camp Watson also there was John Donnelly, Matthew Fitzsimmons, John Harkinson, Bennett Kennedy, William Lord, and Thomas Ryan. Also, down at we have a veteran down at the Carroll Cemetery, Stephen Carroll. He was a veteran of the War of 1812. He was private in the 2nd Regiment Ohio Militia and he was 1793 to 1883. Also, at the Tony Cemetery, Jonathan Tony was also a veteran. Now, in all this war and everything, we lost a few, unfortunately. The true hero, and the ones that I read on this list, the true heroes are the ones that didn't come back, didn't make it back. Anyhow, Houston Vaughn, Walter Norton, Bill Stevenson, Raymond Ross. And our last one was Jamie Spoo. He got killed from incidents, from wounds that he had suffered in the Iraq War.
And Afghanistan.
Yeah, he was in the bomb unit. EOD, yeah. And and James went in later in his life and everything, but he gave it all. And he died and is buried now in Fort Richardson, Alaska.
Where you served, correct?
Right, yeah. So, we know that freedom is not free. And I'd like to read you kind of a logistic list of some of the battles and some of the how these men paid for our freedom. And with what we see going on today, I'm not so sure that we could even find half this many to give their lives for the name of freedom.
I follow a lot of podcasts that talk about a lot of things military wise, and there is a lot out there.
Oh, there is. I'm not taking it away from them, but I'm saying that the patriotism, I don't know, is kind of waning in this country right now, or at least not she is showing it. But anyhow, during the Revolutionary War, we lost 4,435. War of 1812, 2,260. Various Indian wars, over 1,000. Excuse me. It is the allergy season, as you can tell. The Mexican War, there were 13,283. Civil War, this was a sad one, 498,332. the Spanish War, there was 2,446. World War One, 116,516. World War Two, 40,500, 405,399. And the Korean War, 54,246. And Vietnam, 58,200. The Persian Gulf, 1565. And the Gulf War, 6852. I might also add that we still have people dying all over the world to preserve the freedoms that we so much enjoy here at home. I do this song sometimes when I'm performing, and it's called "The Ragged Old Flag," and it kind of tells you about what we're all about here. And it might surprise you to know that Johnny Cash wrote this and recorded it. I walked through the county courthouse square. On a park bench, an old man was sitting there. I said, "Your old courthouse is kind of run down." He said, "Nah, it'll do for our little town." I said, "Your old flagpole has leaned a little bit. And that's a ragged old flag you got hanging on it." He said, "Have a seat." And I sat down. "Is this the first time you've been to our little town?" I said, "I think it is." He said, "I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when Washington took it across to Delaware. And it got powder burned that night Francis Scott Key sat watching it, writing, 'Oh, say, can you see?' And it got a bad rip in New Orleans with Paddington and Jackson tugging at its seams. And it almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on, though. She got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville. She got cut again at Shiloh Hill. They were Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg, and that south wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she got a big hole from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red in World War II. She hung limp and low by the time she was through. She was in Korea and Vietnam. She was sent there. She was by her Uncle Sam. She waved from the ships upon the briny foam, and now they've about quit waving her back here at home. In her own good land here, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, refused. And the government for which it stands is scandalized throughout the land. And she's getting threadbare and wearing thin. But she's in good shape for the shape she's in. 'Cause she's been through the fire before, and I believe she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning. We take her down every night. We don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her up right. On second thought, I do like to brag, 'cause I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag. Thank you, Johnny Cash.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, he was pretty much a pretty good patriot, too. I came across this other poem that I'm going to read here now. I didn't write it, but I want to give credit to the man that did. His name was Sergeant Michael Connor, and he wrote this letter to his sister Patty, and this poem was in it. And he died January 26, 1999, while he was in the Operation Desert Storm. So, this poem is My Symbol. I had a dream near 3 a.m. that crashed into my night. A multitude of warriors standing in full sight. On their anguished faces were grim and hateful glares. They wore the Marine Corps blouses, yet all they did was stare. I saw the wounds at Bella Wood. I saw the scars of Guam. The dead were there at Heartbreak Ridge and a company from Nam. Then one spoke out and asked me a question loud and strong. Can they burn the flag we died for? How can that not be wrong? I did not have an answer to ease their angry pain. I could only give excuses for a country gone insane. I saw the flag on Iwo just before I died. I saw the lead pole lifted where the flag was safely tied. I know it's just a symbol that flies above our graves, but let it be a symbol of what these men and I gave. With that, the dream was over, and I woke with fear and shame to think a fool can trample the flag that bears our names. That's pretty serious and deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote this one about the veterans many years ago. I guess 1980. I wrote this one. It kind of parallels similar to what Mr. Connor did or Sergeant Connor did. We are veterans. We did our duty well. Our destiny is heaven because we've already been to hell. We were there at the Battle of Lexington. The British called us rebels and told us to lay our weapons down. We were one of 16,000 who cut off Lord Cornwallis from the Chesapeake in what became known as the surrender of Yorktown. We cried at Gettysburg when brother fought brother, and it seems so many broken souls and so many shattered dreams. In 1917, we're in Europe to fight the war to end all wars. Well, it was supposed to be. No more fighting for you and for me. We were at Omaha Beach, the Solomons, North Africa, Iwo Jima, and all the rest. And we didn't let up until it was over and our enemies found out they had fought the best. At Korea and Vietnam, it was still the same. We heard the rattling of the sabers. At duty's call, here we came. Then some Iraqi idiot drew a line in the sand. Once again we got together and kicked his rear end and ruined his plan. No war is ever over. No battles will you ever win. The smoke and death clears away for a while, and we know another one will begin.
Yeah, it's freedom's kind of a thing where you have to maintain. It's not something you just set on cruise control and let it ride. You have to fight for it.
That's right. It's an everyday battle. And this little piece kind of entails what that means. It is the veteran, not the preacher, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the veteran, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom to assemble. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us a right to fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the veteran who salutes the flag and serves under the flag and whose coffin is draped by the flag. Thank you, veterans.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast a while back, Jocko Willink's podcast, and I'll paraphrase it and I'll mess it up, but he's talking about when the Japanese and Americans were fighting in the South Pacific, that one of the main reasons why we managed to prevail was that the Japanese were being forced to fight and pushed in a direction that, at almost at knife point or at honor point, whereas the American GIs were thinking about back home, and we're thinking about all the good things that the battle that they were fighting would bring to them. Well, I mean, the freedom itself. Fighting for freedom is kind of the main reason why we were so much more ferocious. We were fighting for the love of freedom and the love of being able to exist in our society, as opposed to fighting from a stance of fear.
Yeah, they were fighting for freedom, and the Japanese were fighting for death.
Yeah. And that's a whole different story. That's a different, carrot versus stick situation here.
Yeah. And a lot of them, to fortify themselves to die from that prospect that they was going to die, they were either on some sort of alcohol or some kind of drug, and that made them more fierce fighters. I mean, as far as they wasn't afraid to die because they knew they was going to, and that was
yeah, and that's it's a crazy way to think.
Yeah.
I think it was methamphetamine, and also I believe that the Germans, they could march really quick and get to a spot fast. It was really crazy how they could manage to maneuver and get there, and it was because they were on some sort of meth. And then they'd get there and they'd be too tired to fight because it would just burn off. Stuff. That was something else I listened to. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're celebrating Memorial Day. Right now, Dad's scrambling to find something else he's written.
Yeah, well, I was Vietnam era. I did not go to Vietnam, but I was stationed at Anchorage, Alaska, and we would go down to Anchorage International and talk to some of the guys that were going over to Vietnam, because that was an international airport, and that's where they stopped when they was on commercial flight. So, so we talked to them, and and it was really funny. The guys going over wanted to talk. The guys coming back wouldn't talk.
Yeah,
they didn't want to express it to anybody because some of the things they went through. And then I experienced a little bit of it myself when I came home. I landed in Seattle, and I had on my uniform, and of course there you go again. All the protesters were out there and everything, and they were being ugly and nasty and everything. And I thought, the thought that went through my head, I said, thank God they took my rifle in Anchorage, because if I'd have had it in their Seattle airport, there would have been
a little rough.
There would have been a little rough for them people. But I think that we did the people coming back from Vietnam a terrible injustice, and it just galls me that what we gave up over there and what we've got in return was not that great.
Well, in the long term, I think people have recognized Vietnam veterans and said welcome home more so.
Now they are, yeah.
But through that time, it's kind of a crazy thing and a paradox to see, because you'll go, go to Vietnam and fight that war and do what you are asked to from your country,
whether you believed it or not.
Yes, and then you'd come back, and there'd be protests, and the thing they call you baby killers or whatever, but you're fighting for that freedom too, their freedom to protest, the First Amendment, and so it's a strange paradox, and so that makes the sacrifice of our, the Vietnam veterans. I mean, it makes it really intense to think about what they did and what they went through to come home to that, but yet that's what makes America.
Yep, that's true. I wrote a prayer once about coming back from that, and how they. It's ironic that you were over there fighting for this very right that they were showing you when you got back,
but that also shows you kind of a thing that I don't think any other country has ever had. That America is strong enough to go through that.
Yeah.
To I mean, as sad and as horrible as it would be for somebody to come back and see that occurring, and wrong as it was, and as
they have to let it go.
You have to.
Yeah. I wrote this one. I had the pleasure and honor of visiting the wall back in Washington, D.C. and
the Vietnam Memorial Wall.
Right. Yeah, I went to all of them, all except the World War II. It wasn't finished when I was here. Excuse me, but it really moved me. Nobody, you couldn't be the coldest hearted sucker there was in the world, and if you walked up there and you didn't shed a tear, it would be pretty hard.
I seen it come through John Day. When
Yeah,
I was just a boy.
Yeah, a little bitty one, the small one. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was made out of cardboard, basically.
Yeah.
And I saw Billy Stevenson's name on it, and it was I was young, but it was awe-inspiring as well. It was good.
I don't think you realize how many people died until you see that wall, that massive, expansive name chiseled into the wall. And I'll get into that in a few minutes.
But I remember when that wall was built when I was really little, and it seemed like even then it was too late.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not too late, but like, just why did it take so long to honor, the sacrifice of these veterans?
Well, yeah, I never understand that, but I think you could term it under politics, probably.
Well, of course.
So I wrote this one back there. I didn't write it at the wall, but I contemplated it back at the wall when I walked through it, and I had two friends on the wall. One was Danny Colder. I went to school with him here, and we started here in the first grade, I think, back in 1949, and I think he left when we were in about the 7th grade. But it wasn't Danny. Excuse me, I take that back. It was his brother, Bobby. He was 2 years younger than me. Anyhow, he was on the wall. I saw his name, and then I saw Billy Stevenson. Now, Billy Stevenson graduated in 1960, and he was a year ahead of me in school. And ironically, he went in the Army after I got out, and so he didn't make it back. So here's this poem I wrote, and I call the name of this poem is called The Hallowed Wall. My first trip back east, so I made it a point to visit a special place with my priority time. I was at the wall to visit 2 friends of mine. Maybe I wasn't just looking for their names, but the absence of mine. Everyone that didn't go or made it back seemed to have to shoulder the guilt and share the blame. I saw a man standing in the middle of the memorial. A reflection of 58,000 souls showed upon his face. He looked pain and hurt, as it was hard for him to gaze upon this place. I asked him if he was looking for someone he had lost on the wall. He replied, "No, I'm looking at the complete list because I lost them all. I see them every day. I come here now and then to see if they are remembered as if they should. How soon brothers forget and have to learn life lessons over, both the bad and the good." I watched as he walked the wall and touched the names and revered each one. He was also remembering, paying his respect, honoring every daughter, every son. Over 58,000 angels, all part of God's overall plan. I asked him, "Who are you, sir?" He replied, "You know who I am. I sat at my Father's right hand."
Yes.
That's pretty deep. But, like I said, it was hard to do. And, I came across this song. Jimmy Fortune wrote this song. And like everything else, it probably it came out way too late.
What, Jimmy Fortune, Statler Brothers?
Yeah, he was one of the last Statler brothers, I guess you might say.
He was the tenor, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think Leon Whitty took his place after Leon had some medical problems and everything, yeah. And he's a great songwriter, and he's still performing today. But he wrote this song, and I hope I can do kind of justice to it. I saw her from a distance as she walked up to the wall. In her hand she held some flowers as her tears began to fall. I took out pen and paper as to trace her memories. Then she looked up to heaven and the words she said were these. She said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me. And oh, I'd love to see him just one more time, you see. All I have are the memories and the moments to recall. But Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on the wall? She said he really missed his family, being home on Christmas Day, and he died for God and country in a place so far away. I remember just a little boy playing war since he was 3. And Lord, this time I know he's not coming home to me. She said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me. No, I'd love to see him, but I know it just can't be. So I thank you for my memories and the moments to recall. But Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on the wall? And Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on the wall? I hope you enjoyed that, because that's really a moving song, and it tells you about what the people gave up, you know. And man, this mother made the ultimate sacrifice, as 58,200 other mothers did the very same thing.
Yep.
Oh, we need to do a little more, you think, Robert?
Well, why don't you read one more poem and we'll close it out?
I maybe I'll do I do a song, another song, because I'm on a roll here, and it just embarrasses the heck out of Robert when I sing.
If it wasn't Memorial Day, I wouldn't allow this.
Yeah, well, you know, this song has a backdrop. You know, I collect kind of funny songs and patriotic songs, and Bobby Bear wrote this song, and the name of the song is God Bless America Again. Well, Irving Berlin wrote God Bless America, you know, and so Bobby Bear got this song out, and it was playing on everything, and so Mr. Berlin's attorney got a hold of Bobby Bear and says, you got to cease and desist. Mr. Berlin does not think you're infringing on his song by writing this song. And so Bobby Bear answered back. He says, if Mr. Berlin don't like this, boy, wait till he hears White Christmas again. Yeah, Irving Berlin also wrote White Christmas. Yeah, okay. All right, here we go. God bless America again. You know the trouble that she's in. Wash her pretty face, dry her eyes, and then God bless America again. You know, I wish God would bless America again, like he did way back there when it all began. He blessed her then, but we sort of took her for granted, and we didn't ask again. So let's kind of hold her hand, and that's all. In case she stumbles, let's don't let her fall. God bless America again. You know that the trouble that she's in. Wash her pretty face, dry her eyes, and then God bless America again. I don't understand everything I read or hear about what's wrong with America. When you don't have a lot of book learning, there are many things I don't understand. But I know this much. She is like a mother to me, and I love her with all my heart. And let me tell you, sir, everything I am or ever hope to be, I owe it all to Mother America. So, God bless America again. You know the trouble that she's in. Wash her pretty face, dry her eyes, and then God bless America again. It seems like ever since America's started, she's kind of been in peril. And I don't know if that's the reason that just keeps on making her great or not. But
Well, I don't think that you can ever, even personally, rest on your laurels. A person has to kind of strive to make themselves better.
if it
And
ain't,
it's,
yeah, if it ain't worth fighting for, it's probably you're taking it for granted anyway.
yeah, it's the struggle. It's not. There's not an end point to this experiment. It's actually the work that you do in the middle of it.
Yeah, I wish more people could. I can't get into the head of some of these people that's out there and some of the things they do and say and still claim to be an American, but in that very sense and everything, that's what America's all about. So we just have to rise above it and keep on keeping on.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
So we're going to end up today, but I want you to think while you're out there enjoying the sun, frying a hamburger, eating a hot dog. What we're really doing on this day is we're actually commemorating the veterans and the sacrifice that they gave us to be able to go to our state national parks and and see the beauty of America and be able to do it without hopefully too many restrictions, even though we are under the COVID problem. But in the long run, I think we'll all be okay.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to make it through this. We've made it through worse perils.
I actually saw something online the other day, and I'll bring it up real quickly before we close out. But if a fellow was born in 1800 or 1900, so there's a pandemic around 1918, also World War I. Then you go and you got the Great Depression. Then you have World War II. You have the Korean War, the 50s, and then it was fairly prosperous and kind of smooth sailing for a bit. But then you got the Vietnam War. We got a man on the moon. We got multiple assassinations. Vietnam War goes all the way to 1975, and if you were born in 1900, you'd be 75 years old, and that's what you've seen. Every decade and every marker, there was something that you would have to overcome and think about and work towards. Well, it's never been smooth sailing, and that it's good that it isn't, because we wouldn't get better if it was easy. And I just kind of want folks to think about that with what's going on with the COVID and maybe politics and however you fall on that, is it's never been easy. It's nothing new about these times. There's nothing new maybe other than technology, but it's always going to be hard. And if it isn't hard, you don't earn it, and it doesn't feel right.
Freedom isn't free. That's the basics of everything that we've talked about today.
That's right. Well, let's call her quits for today, Dad.
Okay. I think, God bless everybody, and may the good Lord take a liking to you, and have a happy Memorial Day and a safe one.
Have some fun.